So there's a lot of different kinds of masculinity. Yeah, just like there's a lot of flavors of ice cream. So I've discovered this nifty thing where I can't really do the drag king or whatever you want to call it thing without looking kind of like a bad boy, which, yeah. So, so what I was thinking about is like the different kinds of masculinity. There's like that queer masculinity, and then there's like fantasy man masculinity, where they often have like big muscles, but they don't have to, and like, or stubble, but at the same time they'll have like the long, pretty braided hair and, robes and all that. And God, I love that. I love that so much. I've been reading way too much fantasy recently, you can tell. And I love that. Yeah. And, there's the kind of masculinity that borders on some kind of feminine. And okay, little bit of brutal honesty. Part of what got me thinking about this to begin with is my recent exploration of yaoi, hentai, and other stuff like that. And then I'm just focusing on the guy aspect. There's bara, which is like big, muscly guys. There's like the chubby, and there's really, really skinny, and then there's cross-dressing. There's hairy, there's completely without anything, there's somewhere in between. I guess it's equates a bit to like twink, bear, etc., only Japanese in origin. Another interesting point is I've noticed that a lot of trans guys flock to certain brands of masculinity for some reason. It's pretty common to see facial hair, but not across the board. I guess always shorter hair if you're trying to pass, especially pre-hormones. But especially like my friend jokes that every trans guy wears plaid shirts. I think I only own one. I swear. So, and I mean, certain things are actually just a side effect of trying to pass, button-down shirts, layers, that I was attracted to a different kind of masculinity. And I can't exactly put a finger on what kind that is, but somehow it was just a little different. I've yet to meet a jock type FTM yet, though. That'll be the day. I think the problem is with that concept is locker rooms. When I first really started exploring my gender in a way I hadn't felt the license to before was because I had two friends who were also FTMs, and they handled it a little bit differently in the long run than I did. One of them feels a strong need to cling to sort of a very strong expression of masculinity, but like he's a nerd, so that's kind of his way of passing off as like those few less aggressively masculine behaviors. And the other one just went the gay and mildly camp route, which works for a lot of people, I guess. But both stuck a lot more strongly to masculinity than I did, and yet I'm the one who I don't know, spends more time in some variety of drag makeup and wears more masculine clothing, and I don't know. I just wonder about that, because I manage to be both more masculine and more feminine than a lot of people I know, and I've said that before, but I'm not sure how I pull that off. So, yeah. So, I mentioned something a while ago that I kind of want to readdress about people being able to say what kind of boy you are, whether you're a boy or whether or not you're trans enough. And it doesn't seem like something you should have to say, but it is. It definitely is. There's a lot of, sometimes it comes up in smaller ways, like the way people are always surprised to realize that you can be a trans guy that's gay or bi or something like that, that you wouldn't have migrated from dyke to trans guy, and that's just a stereotype, But more than that, that, if people have doubts in themselves, that those doubts are used against them. And that other people feel like they can look at your behavior and say, oh, well, you're acting too feminine, or you're acting masculine in this way and not in that way. And that kind of stuff's important to hear if you're really, attached to passing. But I don't know. I'm starting to think that passing is like the big bad wolf of the trans community. That, like, really our journey, our transitioning, all of that needs to just be so much more internal. And I'm speaking to myself again on this one as much as I'm speaking to anyone out there. That what makes someone trans or a guy or a girl enough to fit your definition? Like how is that defined? Who's in charge of that? Who's the gender police who gets to decide you fit and you don't? And it's especially disconcerting coming from within the trans community. And if you've come up against it, you'll know exactly what I mean. People trans people who don't feel like gender queers belong, who feel like they somehow invalidate the trans experience, cisgendered, born people and trans people who both feel threatened by anything in the middle, anything between, or I don't know, different levels of transitioning, like, say, a guy who decides to get hormones and not surgery, or surgery and not hormones, or nothing at all. He can still call himself a guy just because he doesn't take the physical route, I think. But not everyone else agrees with me. Peace. Love ya. See you next time. No promises on when the next video will be posted, but I'm going to try not to have another lull like this one.